In the name of the Holy One who brings light to the world. Amen. Please be seated. Remember all the good food we used to eat together? Remember the fish, the cucumbers and the melons? Remember the leeks and the onions and the garlic? Oh, the food was glorious. Food, glorious food. Those were the days. Well, I may have paraphrased a little bit there, but those were the words that the Israelites spoke to Moses when they were out in the desert wandering around trying to get to the promised land. It went like this. Remember all the delicious food we had when we were back in Egypt? Not like this stuff we have now. What is this? Manna? Yuck. Remember how good things used to be? Yep. Those were the days. Now it's true that when the Israelites were reminiscing about the great food they used to eat back in Egypt, that they were also forgetting in that particular moment that they were slaves in Egypt. And now they are free. But they are still searching for home, still searching for their place in the world, running into all kinds of stumbling blocks and barriers, and finding out that, well, the food in the desert just isn't that good. In fact, it's pretty dry. So the people reminisce for a time gone by that looks much better than where they are right now. It's easy to do that, isn't it? To look back at a time that was and remember it with fondness. That's wonderful reminiscing. It's good for our hearts. Sometimes we even long to go back to that place. That is our human nature. We human beings have trouble navigating times of change, when things just aren't the way they used to be, or at least the way we remember them. Sometimes, what seems like the best and most secure thing to do, the thing that will settle our hearts the quickest, is to grab on to what we used to know, to go back to that place where we used to be. And that is a choice that we can make. This morning we heard from Jeremiah the prophet. And Jeremiah's entire prophetic ministry was defined by living in times of change. He began in the shadow of the temple at Jerusalem, the anchor of community life for the Israelites, and ending in a time of exile with a people driven out to a foreign land, Babylon. Jeremiah, God loved him. He saw this change coming, and he tried to let the people know. He tried to prepare them. He didn't mince words. Prophets don't. He told them straight out, in the words that God had put in his mouth. Trust, those who trust in mere mortals will be like a shrub in the desert. Those whose trust is in the Lord will be like a tree planted by water. In other words, when times get tough, when times seem unsure, we often want to turn inward. We want to rely on our own sense of what's best for us, rather than trusting in what God has in store for us. Still, we can choose to rely on ourselves completely. This is a choice that we all have the freedom to make. So the Israelites are exiled to Babylon for a couple of generations, about 70 years. And old Jeremiah, he keeps tabs and he stays in touch with them. And after it felt like they'd been there forever, he wrote them a letter. And he said this: "Thus says the Lord, to whom I have sent from Jerusalem to Babylon. Build houses and live in them. Plant gardens there and eat what they produce. Take wives, have sons, multiply there and do not decrease. For surely I know the plans I have for you, not for harm, but to give you a future with hope. When you search for me, you will find me if you seek me with all your heart." Jeremiah tells it like it is. That is the job of a prophet. And for the time being, he tells the people in Babylon, you aren't going back to where you used to be. This is the new normal. You have entered a new era in your lives. Yet you still have each other, and you still have choices to make about how to respond faithfully to living in a new normal. Over the past few years in my ministry, I've shared lots of time with people in hospitals or in hospice for whom a new normal is sometimes an unbearable intrusion in their lives. I've also shared lots of time with people in counseling who discover great unexpected joy as they enter into a new era. They have choices. This is the stuff of life. And the common denominator of the faithful response is to trust in something greater than yourself. Trust in something greater than yourself. Look at the new normal with courage and imagination. And begin living in that place, really living there. As Jeremiah said to the exiles, make a home there. Plant seeds there. Try the new food. Settle in a little bit. Try to reframe your perspective. And trust that God has plans for you, and know that they are good. This, too, is the message that Jesus offers to those who are looking for healing, those who were troubled in heart. In his so-called Sermon on the Plain, which we heard, Jesus speaks plainly to the people, like Jeremiah did, about their choices as faithful followers. His words seem counterintuitive to our ears. Blessed are the poor. Blessed are the hungry. Blessed are those who weep. How do we make sense of that? I think in part we can remember the words of Jeremiah. Surely I know the plans I have for you, says God. Not for harm, but to give you a future full of hope. There is a time to come when the poor will be lifted up, the hungry will be fed, all the bread that they need. And those who mourn will know joy once again. Trust in this, that there is a future full of hope. That is a choice that we can make. Yesterday, our treasurer and wardens, that is Paul and Helen and Beth Dello and I, met in the morning to present the story of St. Matthias to the finance committee of the diocese, from whom we have requested some assistance as most of you heard at our parish forum on February 3rd. Also yesterday, our treasurer and wardens and vestry and I met with Canon Mary Sulerud to take part in a mutual ministry review and begin to make plans with God's help for what the next year and years beyond may look like at St. Matthias. You'll hear more about this next Sunday at another parish forum that we will have after church, and also on March 10th when Canon Sulerud will be with us. I want to thank everyone for yesterday, including the vestry, Michelle, Lois, Sandy, and Pris, as well as Pam and Judy, who could not be with us. We have a number of challenges, and we also have an element of vitality. There is vitality here, and a mission that is very much in our favor as we face the future. And imagine, perhaps, as is our choice, a new normal. I am confident that yesterday the diocesan leaders that we met heard and saw that loud and clear. In her closing remarks to us yesterday, Canon Sulerud summarized by saying, encouraging us to remember all of these discussions we are having are about our life together. And our life together matters. So much of it is about choices that are ours to make. So let's make choices so that we continue into the future as a vibrant and thriving place where we bring God's love and continue to do God's work well into the future. A future that is full of hope. Amen.
Amen.